Hi guys, thanks so much for tuning into this video. I am Jay Theo, and today we're gonna be talking about, will down low culture ever end? I know, right? Ugh. But before we get to that, I do want to say happy new year. I know this year for a lot of us has started off in a rocky start with everything still going on in the world, but I do want to say happy new year. I know it's been a little minute since I've been on. I just want to say shout out to all my subscribers, shout out to everybody that's been checking out my videos. I really appreciate all the love. My goal is to be more consistent with my videos on a weekly basis, so you will be seeing a lot more content coming from me. I have been a little bit anxious and dealing with some confidence issues when it comes to posting, but I'm working through that to make sure that I can keep providing great content for you guys. So bear with me, you know, it's a journey, but I love YouTube, I love posting, so we're gonna keep doing that. So guys, with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive right on into this conversation and let's discuss, will down low culture ever end? So first off, let's define what down low culture is. So I'm gonna read off of the definition from an article that I found, and then I'm gonna read the Wikipedia definition just because I think it's really good. I know Wikipedia, but then I'm gonna kind of discuss what I think the definition actually is in our society when it comes to down low culture. So DL refers to heterosexual identifying men who secretly have sex with men while in a primary partnership with a woman. So basically, DL men is a down low, is a slang term for heterosexual men who have sex with men but still have a primary partner that is a woman. Down low is an African American slang term that typically refers to the subculture of black men who usually identify as heterosexual but who have sex with men. Some avoid sharing this information even with their female sexual partners. They are usually married to women or if they are single. So that's the two definitions that I found. As far as my definition goes, down low is a slang term that came about in, I want to say, the late 90s, maybe, or during the 90s, 2000s era, kind of when down low was a slang term in general, and then it became a little more sexualized as a term for African American black men who secretly have sex with men who are gay or bisexual and who secretly have sex with men and who do not share that with anyone but the gay men they're sleeping with. They typically will have a partner, sometimes they don't. I think down low also has just become a term for closeted men who aren't ready to come out yet. I think it also is a term for men who just have not come to terms with the fact that they're gay, but they like to sleep with men. So I think down low is kind of like an overarching umbrella. I do think it's men that are heterosexuals, that are in relationships with women. I also think it refers to men who are still in the closet, who just haven't really accepted the idea of them being gay. And also men who are single, who are not really pursuing women, but they still are not out and they're closeted. So I think it's kind of like an umbrella term in my eyes. I mean, I do think it's a term that has been more so coined in the African American community. I know other communities use it, but down low really was coined by African Americans because it's a very, even though other communities do share the experience, especially in Latino, Asian, and especially a lot of other minority communities. I feel like they experience a lot of the same thing, but I definitely think it is stemmed from a lot of the homophobia that comes in the African American community. There's a lot of homophobia within our community, and it really forces men to feel like they cannot share their truth. If they are bisexual, if they are gay, if they want to pursue that type of life, they feel that they cannot be honest about it. I feel like it deals with a lot of religion, it deals with homophobia, it deals with a lot that happened during slavery. So there's a lot of reasons why men are down low. So I can't fault men for going through this process because there is a lot of homophobia and a lot of internalized homophobia that is birthed through the African American community. So that's my thoughts process on down low. The term down low, it really is this culture of being secretly gay, you know, as I feel like as a black man and as a man of color. I think this term really isn't something that's coined by the white community. I think for white people, they are often given more of an opportunity to express themselves than their black and brown counterparts. I'm not saying there's not hate and discrimination towards gay people or there's not families out there that don't accept them, but I feel like usually when someone's down low in the white community, I feel like it's more that they just haven't come out yet and they're still in the closet. It's not a whole culture of being down low. But that's just my thoughts on down low. It is an African American or person of color term. So with all that being said, I kind of want to talk about why I think we do need to eventually get to a place where we can end in the need for this type of culture. I understand that people don't want to come out and share and come out in this environment that we're in, if they feel like coming out could threaten their well-being or their life or something. I understand the issues of coming out, so I never want to fault someone for not coming out. But the fact that we have a whole culture on someone being secretive and keeping secrets away from their family, away from, and also just not being able to come to terms with who you are for yourself, I think that's just not healthy for Black men. I think that leads to a lot of stigma and homophobia we continue to endure as Black men. I think DL culture adds to the homophobia, it adds to the issues, because it's basically you not accepting yourself and feeling like you have a place to be yourself. So that's gonna have an effect on the gay partners that you're sleeping with, on the openly gay man that you're sleeping with. You're still affecting how they think about themselves, how they even have internalized homophobia by even sleeping with DL men, and also adding to this culture. So I think there's just a lot of dynamics that make the whole DL phenomenon not healthy for us, and something that I wish would end. But honestly, I don't know in our lifetime this is something that it would ever end. But I do want to talk about some of the reasons why I think it should, and also just some of the reasons why we have such an obsession with straight men, closeted men, and DL culture. So first off, what really brought this idea to have this conversation is DL culture is definitely big in the African American and POC community, Black community. But also, I wanted to bring up down low culture because I've experienced a lot of down low men in my life. From back when I was in high school, all through college, all through my years as an adult, I have experienced DL men, or men that I initially, when I met them, thought they were gay, thought they were open, and then to just find out that they have a girlfriend, they have a wife, they have kids, or that they're just not out. So I've definitely had experiences firsthand, and it's not fun. I feel like if you're someone who is pursuing love and pursuing the idea that you can meet somebody as a gay man, or if you are just looking for someone who's comfortable with himself that you don't have to sneak around with, it is frustrating dealing with down low men. It just is. And we all have moments where we think we could be that person to change someone's mind or to make them come out, and that's no fun, especially in college. I feel like all through college there were so many down low men, the men in frats, the men in sports, so many men who felt they couldn't be themselves, so they just want to sneak around. When you're in college and you're young, you're still kind of building the sense of who you are in as a person. So when you're a openly gay person, and the only people you can engage with are down low men or men that are secretly hiding themselves or don't feel good about themselves, it makes you feel not so great about yourself. It makes you feel like, am I not good enough? Me being open, is it wrong? And down low men, they can just maneuver in a more they can maneuver in a way where they kind of benefit from society a little more, but also not being open, which, I can't fault someone for benefiting from society by perceiving to be more straight, but sometimes I feel like the openly gays get the short end of the stick when we're interacting with DL men, and I think that's why it's even a bigger issue. And I no longer deal with DL men. I cannot tolerate it. It's just too much for me. It's too frustrating for me, so I don't no longer deal with DL men, but it has been a huge part of my life. And also I feel like why I still have such difficulty finding a partner and finding someone who's open like me, because of down low culture and so much shame with being openly gay as a Black man, because that's really what it comes down to. A lot of men feel like you cannot be openly gay by being Black or being POC, and our community and our families don't allow it, so then they live the secret lifestyle. But I want to meet people and be around people that feel like they can be themselves and be open and be out. So that's why I think it also is a problem, even for openly gay men, that DL culture is still a big phenomenon. And unfortunately though, this leads me to my segue, the obsession. I think, openly gay men are overtly obsessed with straight guys, DL culture, closeted men. You see it all over social media, you see it all over TikTok, you see it all over Twitter, the obsession with DL men. What DL men deserve, what DL men need, why you just see so many jokes about, especially on TikTok, about men pursuing DL men, and men pursuing men who are married, men pursuing men who have kids. And it's just like the obsession is just a lot. And I feel like that's why us as openly gay men, or more effeminate men, or men that just have more of a fluid gender expression, or just some men who just are so proud and outly gay, sometimes it's harder for us to meet other people if we are Black or a person of color, because there's so many men that are on the down low and who are not accepting themselves, and who don't lean into their gay or bisexuality or pansexuality, whatever it is. They don't lean into that because they are so focused on hiding themselves. But there's such an obsession, and it's such a fetish, it seems like, for a lot of openly gay men to date and to deal with DL men. Now, if you don't know a man is DL, if you don't know that they're married and all those things, I understand that. But it's the willingness sometimes for the openly gay community to engage and be a part of this DL fantasy all the time. It's pretty extreme. And even I'm really big into reading Pornhub's year in reviews every year, and it really breaks down all the analytics of searches and most viewed categories when it comes to porn. And they do a gay breakdown. In the year for 2021, I'll show the breakdown, but year for 2021, straight guys was the #1 most viewed category and like the #5 search term for Pornhub. So there really is a true fetishization and an admiration for men that are DL, that are straight, that are closeted, that are not out. Like, gay men love that. It's literally fetishized. I think it has a lot to do with society's pressure of hypermasculinity, and the only way to be a man is to be hypermasculine. And to be the most hypermasculine is to first be having sex with women, but to also have this very hypermasculine persona. And a lot of gay guys desire that because of society, that being a man is to be hypermasculine and to be overmasculine. That a lot of openly gay men desire DL culture because a lot of those DL men or straight guys in the closet feed into the narrative of hypermasculinity, and that's just so attractive and so appeasing to gay men. And don't get me wrong, back in the day I used to be so focused on that masculine man, the hypermasculine man, but even in some of my past videos I talk about how I feel like I'm way more open to a more fluid gender expression, a more 50-50 or 30-70, whatever the case may be, gender expression. You do not need to be super hyper masculine for me to be interested. And I'm starting to really build my viewpoint and attraction level for men of all types of gender expressions, or men's with more fluid gender expression. Because I feel like having that desire for masculinity also adds to this desire of wanting straight men and closeted men, because that's what you are attracted to and that's what you want. Which I can't fault anybody for what they're attracted to, but we have to understand a lot of this attraction is based on society. So we're perceiving all this toxicity and this obsession and this love for masculinity and this hate for femininity. We also live in a patriarchal world, so femininity as a whole is always being negated and pushed to the side, so that we have such this focus on masculinity. And I just feel like there's so much room for openly gay men to lose this attachment and grasp towards hypermasculinity and be more open to all kinds of men. Because no matter if you're a feminine man, if you're a masculine man, you're in between man, we are men at the end of the day, and we all deserve love. And I feel like until we break the shackles of this obsession with hypermasculinity and straight men and DL men, it's gonna just make dating and finding love just super, super challenging in the gay community. And it's just gonna continue this desire for hookups and sex and the secrecy of it all that sometimes I feel like a lot of us really don't want. I really think this desire for straight men, this desire for DL men, closeted men, just reinforces it reinforces this myth that out gay men and proud gay men, or even more effeminate men, or men that just really accept their sexuality, are less desirable. That it's more desirable to be closeted and don't ask, don't tell, and hush hush about your gayness. Sometimes seems like that's more desirable. We all know those gay guys that we meet that are like, I'm not into the gay scene, I don't do gay stuff, I just sleep with men, I date men. Even the guys that I date men, but I don't go to gay stuff, I'm not in the gay scene. I feel like it's still just negating and making it seem like the idea of being openly gay and sexually proud about your sexuality and being openly gay is less desirable. And that's something else that I just want that to stop being a factor of this huge desire for the huge obsession with DL men and straight closeted men. It also feeds to, like I said earlier, feeds to internalized homophobia. It feeds to this desire that being gay is not right, and the only right way to be is straight. Another outcome from this pursuit and desire and obsession with DL culture is that it really perpetuates the patriarchy and really produces this anti-fem, this anti-woman. It just adds to the anti-fem and the anti-woman idea. It's basically saying if you're an openly gay man and you express yourself and you don't fit this very typical masculine stereotype of being a man, then you're not right, you're not desirable, you're not it. And I feel like it just adds to like how so many men in general, no matter if you're gay or not, has this anti-femininity femininity view, which in turn is like an anti-women view. We think anything closer to women, anything that mirrors more sort of mirrors what a woman is or mirrors femininity, we don't like. And I feel like openly gay men, just by default, I think sometimes are seen more feminine or more feminine or less than a man and less desirable because they're out and proud and they appreciate their sexuality, and they tend to have a lot more gender fluidness and less hang-ups on their gender expression. Now, I know there are out openly gay men that believe in masculinity, are super masculine. I'm not saying that, but I definitely think the homophobia comes from this anti-feminine viewpoint that I feel like that's why a lot of people obsess and love DL culture and straight men and masculinity, which masculinity is anti-femininity, which at the end of the day is anti-women, in a bigger thought process. Femininity is women, and people are anti-women, and I feel like that's also an aspect of this. And I feel like people who are chasing DL men and are really anti-openly gay men, I also feel like you have a kind of a weird anti-femininity, anti-women thing going on because you are in such pursuit of this very hyper-masculine idea of what it means to be a man. And honestly, I also just feel like it's in an anti-women sense where a lot of openly gay men love to pursue men that do have wives, that do have girlfriends. And I feel like that's anti-women in the sense of like you are purposely adding to this dynamic of secrecy and lies that is being put on a woman. No, I don't think that's the responsibility of the openly gay man to have to, factor into what his sex partners does. But I do think it's just another level of just anti-womenist when I've met gay men. I've met a lot of gay men that interact with DL men, and they have this weird obsession with them actually having a girlfriend or actually being married. Like they get off more from the fact that the DL man they're sleeping with, the straight man they're sleeping with has a woman. That like adds to the fantasy, that adds to the dynamic that they're looking for. So I also just think there's still just this another level of anti-women in that sense where these openly gay men don't even care about the women involved in these situations that are with these DL men. And I, for myself, when I speak on myself, I didn't like that. When I've interacted with DL men, when I thought I could deal with it and I found out they had a girlfriend or a wife, I couldn't keep pursuing it. I just felt wrong, and I'm not saying that people can feel how they ever want to feel, but for me, it also is just like, I do think about the women involved, the women being lied to and the secrets being told to her, especially when the DL men like to talk crap about the women. So also, to a lot of women out there, a lot of times messing with a DL man, you're not just sleeping with them, you're also being the sounding board for the hate and the despise or the mistreatment that they are giving the woman. So also it's like another layer of that I just didn't like. I didn't like when these guys would want to sleep with me and then they would want to talk crap about their woman or their wife. I didn't like that. It was just kind of adding to this level of like, I don't feel morally right about this, when on top of it, you're sleeping with me and then you're talking crap about the women that you're with and you think it's funny, you think it's funny that you're cheating. Like, I could not tolerate that for myself, and that's just who I am. I'm not saying people can't do what they want to do, but for me, I just don't like that dynamic of kind of being anti-women and throwing women under the dust and shading these women in these situations just so you can sleep with a straight, hyper-masculine man. I just don't think that dynamic is worth it for my mental health, for my mental, and for my moral standing. But to each his own. Lastly, I also just think there's just so much power in being an out openly gay proud man or bisexual man or pansexual man. I think there's so much power in being openly proud and openly out in society when you're an openly gay, openly queer man. I think there's just so many positives. I also think when you are dating an openly queer man, I think from a sexual standpoint, you tend to be more mutual sexual pleasure. Straight men tend to be very sexually selfish. So I think when you're with someone who is openly out and gay and more understanding of his sexuality and who he is, he can also be a better partner sexually when it comes to pleasure and pleasing you and understanding you when you're out openly and openly gay. Also think openly gay men, they tend to humanize their partner more and not just see their partner as a sex object. I think a lot of my issue with DL men that I had when I dated DL men, this was New York City, this was Los Angeles, DC, and when I was in college, anytime I've dated a DL man or dealt with DL men, I just also feel like they see me more as a sex object than a human. And they don't see me as someone that actually has feelings and actually has a brain and actually someone who isn't human. A lot of it is this idea that I'm a sex object and I feed their need for gay sex or their need for male sex. I don't think that's a good thing. But an openly gay man humanizes you and makes you feel like a human and understands your emotion. Not always. Men still can be men. But I think an openly gay man sees you as more as just a sex object. They tend to see you as a fellow gay man that they're having sex with. I also think openly gay men also lead to the advancement and progress of queerness in society. So gay liberation, gay opportunities, the gay laws, gay civil rights, I think that a lot of those changes come from out openly gay men, people who are proud about their sexuality. It takes that pride in your sexuality and to want to advance opportunities in laws and progress of gayness. So if we continue this DL closeted culture, even if it's just on a sex level, but it's still a part of our culture, we're not going to see the progress we want to see for queer men of color, for gay men of color, for black men, black gay men. We're not going to see the progress we want to see because we are so focused on hiding ourselves away from the world instead of showing ourselves to the world. But all to say, I don't know if DL culture will ever end, but I do think there's some benefits I do think there's extreme benefits to DL culture ending, but I do think there are things we can do to minimize DL culture, and that's straight community, gay community. We need to stop the homophobia, the internalized homophobia, all the homophobia that comes with the idea that if you're black, you cannot be gay, you cannot be bisexual, you cannot be pansexual. We need to end that. We need women plays a big role in this. Women being more understanding that men have sexual desires that are not just hetero. Men can be bisexual, men can be pan, men can be into other things other than just women, but still be open to the pursuit of a woman. So, I think there also just needs to be more understanding, more openness to the understanding that men have fluidity in their sexuality just like women do. And not to put that on women, also patriarchy, misogyny adds to this, but I think women are also a piece of this puzzle when it comes to DL culture, homophobia that we need to fix. But also masculinity, the patriarchy is a big chunk of this. So all of us in our community being more open to the understanding that black men and men in general can be feminine, can be sexually fluid, can be bisexual, can be pansexual, can not only be straight, and that hypermasculine is not the only way to be a man. I think once women, gay men, straight men, once we lose this idea that hypermasculinity is the way to be as a man, I think we will break down these barriers that will start to minimize and crack the DL culture, and starts to minimize and crack the secrecy, and allow for men who are gay, bisexual, pansexuals to be more open about their sexuality so that they don't feel like they have to hide and be in closets and be secretive and lie to their partners, to their family, to everyone. If we can just we create spaces for men to feel more open to being themselves. So we all play a role. Gay men, we play a role. Straight men, we play a role. Women, we play a role. Everybody in the community plays a role in fixing this problem when it comes to DL culture. But with all that being said, thank you guys for tuning into this video. I hope this was insightful. One day I hope that we will end DL culture and this phenomenon that the black men, the men of color cannot be openly gay, cannot be openly bisexual or openly pansexual. I do hope that we get there one day, that we can end the whole down low culture phenomenon. And I hope that one day the gay community cannot be so obsessed for seeking partners or sexual partnership in men that are closeted and on the down low. As always, guys, with everything going on in the world, and as hard as it is, do your best to stay safe, stay positive, and I will see you guys on the next video.